You know that feeling when you're just, completely bone deep drained?
Oh, yeah.
I don't mean the I just had a good workout, kind of tired.
No, the real thing.
I mean that heavy gray exhaustion where, the idea of sending one more email or watching one more spoon feels like you're being asked to climb Mount Everest.
Without oxygen.
Yeah.
The burnout, the utter collapse of the internal battery.
Exactly. And usually when we hit that wall, we just look at our calendar.
Right.
Right? We say, well, obviously, I work 60 hours, I've got kids, I have a commute.
It's a math problem.
Yeah, I'm physically out of gas. Output exceeds input. Simple.
That is the logical way to look at it. It's a resource management issue. You spent too many calories, mental or physical, and now you're empty.
But today, we're looking at a source that claims that logic is actually wrong, or at least it's missing the most important variable.
Mm-hmm.
We're diving into a piece by Dung titled Love Always Covers Magical Power. And I have to be honest, when I first saw the title, my skepticism radar went off. It sounds
a little fluffy.
Yeah, a little fluffy.
It does sound a bit like a greeting card, doesn't it? But stick with me here, because Dung posits something that is actually quite radical. He suggests that exhaustion often isn't about the circumstances.
Right.
It's not about the physics of the work or the number of hours.
So he's saying, I'm not tired because I worked hard.
He's arguing that effort and energy expenditure aren't the same thing. You can expend massive effort with zero burnout if the fuel source is correct.
Okay.
And conversely, you can burn out doing almost nothing if the fuel source is resistance. He believes exhaustion comes from the moment our heart runs out of love for what we're doing.
Okay, so let's get specific here, because love it's a loaded word.
It is.
Are we talking about romantic love? Because if the solution to my burnout is that I need to, fall in love with my Excel spreadsheets, we're going to have a problem.
No, and that's a crucial distinction. He isn't talking about romance, and he's not talking about that warm, fuzzy feeling you get when you see a puppy. He is defining love as a functional mechanism. He connects it to the Buddhist concept of compassion, the ability to see suffering and the wish to ease it.
So it's utilitarian.
It's a power source. Think of it this way. We usually run on the fuel of willpower or discipline. We force ourselves to do things.
Right.
That fuel is finite. And it burns dirty. It leaves this residue stress, tension, fatigue. Dung is suggesting that love, specifically the desire to be of service or to care for something, is a clean energy source. It bypasses the normal biological limits of the body.
Bypassing biological limits. That's a really big claim. That sounds like superhero stuff.
Well, he gives a case study that is essentially a superhero moment, but it's grounded in a very scary reality. It involves his daughter.
Yeah, I read this part 3 times because the physics of it just didn't make sense to me. So the setup is, his daughter has been in an accident. She's in a cast. She's terrified. She's in pain. And they're at the bottom of a staircase. He has to get her to the 4th floor.
And here's the constraint that matters. She was nearly 20 kilograms heavier than him at the time.
Hold on. I need to check the math on that. 20 kilos is about 45 pounds.
Yeah.
So imagine carrying a person your own size plus a large suitcase filled with bricks up 4 flights of stairs.
Yeah.
That's not just a heavy lift. That is biomechanically dangerous.
It is. If you put him in a gym and said, here is a barbell that outweighs you by 20 kilos, now squat it and walk it up 4 floors, he fails.
Oh, he fails every time.
His lower back gives out or his quads seize up. Something breaks.
Right. The central governor theory in sports science says the brain shuts down muscles at like 60% capacity to prevent injury. His brain should have just screamed, stop. You will break your spine.
Exactly. But he didn't stop. He didn't even pause to weigh the pros and cons. There was no one to help. His daughter was panicking. And Dung says in that moment, the logic just dissolved.
The thought wasn't, can I do this?
No, the thought was simply, my child needs me.
And he did it. He carried her all the way up.
He did. And this is where the love is fuel theory gets really interesting. He says love overcame fear and pushed beyond physical limits. Now, a skeptic might say that's just adrenaline.
That was my first thought, fight or flight.
But adrenaline's a short-term burst, It lasts for maybe 90 seconds, and afterwards you crash hard, you shake.
Oh yeah, the shakes are bad.
Exactly. But carrying someone up 4 flights of stairs is a sustained aerobic effort. It takes minutes, Dung argues this wasn't panic. It was a transcendence of limits where the self, the part of you that worries about your back or your fatigue, just disappeared.
It's gone.
The immediate need to care for another person unlocked energy that simply wasn't available for his own, selfish use.
It's interesting you say available for his own selfish use, because if someone offered him $1,000 to carry that weight, he probably couldn't have done it.
Precisely. The governor in the brain would have stopped him. But because the intent was care, the governor was overridden.
Okay, I'm with you on the saving the child scenario. High stakes unlock high performance. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But, and this is a big but, most of us aren't carrying injured relatives upstairs every day.
Thankfully not, no.
Most of our exhaustion comes from the mundane, the boring, the repetitive, the death by 1,000 cuts. Does this magical power actually work when the stakes are zero?
And this is where Dung pivots to the second case study, dishwashing.
From the ER to the kitchen sink. I love it.
It's a perfect pivot because it addresses the drudgery aspect of burnout. Dung admits that, like a lot of men, and people in general, he viewed washing dishes as the enemy. It was heavy, greasy, annoying.
A total waste of time. I feel that. I don't have a dishwashing, but I have expense reports. Every single month, I look at that pile of receipts and I feel my soul leaving my body. It feels like a net negative transaction. I'm losing time, I'm losing energy, and I'm gaining nothing but frustration.
And that net negative feeling, that is the sound of you burning dirty fuel. You're using willpower to force yourself through resistance. That resistance creates friction, and friction creates heat, aka burnout.
So how did he flip it? Because I don't feel a lot of spiritual compassion for my receipts.
He used a cognitive reframe. He stopped looking at the dirty plates as a mess I have to clean and started looking at them as a vehicle for care.
Walk me through that.
He told himself, washing dishes is taking care of the living space. It is creating comfort for my family. He used visualization. He'd imagine the kitchen tidy. He'd imagine his wife and kids walking in and feeling relaxed because the space was clean. He focused on how a clean space softens the heart.
So he turned it from a chore into a gift.
Exactly. And suddenly the act shifts from I must do this to I am manufacturing peace. And here's the kicker. He found that when he did this, the fatigue vanished. The task that used to drain his battery started to actually recharge it slightly because he felt good about the care he was providing.
That's fascinating. It sounds like he hacked his own dopamine system.
How so?
Well, instead of the dopamine coming from finishing the task, he was getting a steady drip of it during the task because he connected it to a purpose.
That's the performance enhancer aspect right there. If you can do the boring stuff with love meaning, with an intent to help or care, you have a massive advantage over everyone else who's just doing it with grit and resentment.
You aren't fighting the task anymore.
You're flowing with...
I love that concept. Don't fight the task.
Yeah.
But Dung takes it even further. We've done physical feats. We've done domestic boredom. Now we have to talk about the energy vampire that keeps most people up at night. Money.
The scarcity trap. This is the third case study.
And this one, it just stresses me out reading it. So the scenario, Dung is down to his last 600,000 VND. He has no income guaranteed for tomorrow.
That is panic-inducing. Survival mode.
That is the definition of insecurity. Your lizard brain is just screaming, hoard every penny, protect the cave.
Exactly.
And yet, he hears about a stranger, not even a family member, who needs money to treat a sick child. And he sends them 500,000 VND.
Leaving him with 100,000. Basically nothing.
Why? I mean, really, why? To a logical person, that looks reckless. It looks totally irresponsible. You can't help others if you starve to death.
It does look reckless. But Dung explains it by saying, love was stronger than fear. And we really need to unpack the psychology here because it's not just about charity. It's about breaking the paralysis of scarcity.
What do you mean by paralysis?
When you are in that state of, I don't have enough, you contract. You are tight, anxious, fearful. That state is incredibly exhausting. It burns massive amounts of mental energy just worrying.
That's true. Being broke is expensive, emotionally speaking.
Right. By giving the money away, Dung performed a psychological interrupt. He proved to his own brain that he wasn't a victim. He shifted from a mindset of, I am lacking, to I have enough to share.
That's a massive power move. It's like saying to the universe, I trust in life more than I fear poverty.
And he describes the result as a miracle. Not that money magically fell from the sky, but that his heart felt warmer. The anxiety broke. He felt lighter. He reconnected with his humanity instead of his poverty.
Wow.
This illustrates the unconditional nature of this power. When you give without expectation of return, even when it costs you, it creates a sense of expansion.
It breaks the grip of fear, and fear is the ultimate battery drainer.
The ultimate.
But I want to play devil's advocate for a second.
Yeah.
It's one thing to help a sick kid. That's noble. It's a whole other thing to deal with people who are actively mean to you. Because Dung brings up forgiveness, and that feels like the advanced class.
Oh, it is the advanced class. He asks, who has never been hurt? Who has never been betrayed? We all have.
And usually the advice is forgive and forget. But honestly, when someone wrongs me, my instinct isn't to send them love fuel. My instinct is to hold on to that grudge because it feels like justice.
Of course.
If I forgive them, aren't I just being a doormat? Aren't I saying what they did was okay?
And I'm glad you brought that up because Dung is actually very specific here. He argues that holding a grudge is actually the submissive act.
How so?
Because when you hold a grudge, you're letting the other person dictate your internal energy levels. You are carrying their bad behavior around in your backpack all day, every day. You're paying a resentment tax on your own peace of mind.
So forgiveness isn't for them?
No. Dung frames forgiveness as a selfish, strategic move for you. You aren't forgiving them because they deserve it. You're forgiving them because you refuse to let resentment imprison your heart. You're cutting the energy cord so you can stop leaking fuel.
I like that. Resentment tax. That makes sense to my brain. But how do you actually do it? Because when I'm mad, I can't just flip a switch and say, I love you now.
It's not about flipping a switch to love. It's about flipping a switch to understanding. Dung suggests looking for the good sides in the person you dislike, acknowledging that no one is purely bad. Everyone is a mix of light and dark, strengths and weaknesses.
That requires looking at them as a human rather than just a villain.
Right. And if you can find just a sliver of understanding, maybe they were rude because they are scared, maybe they're incompetent because they're overwhelmed, your heart softens. And when your heart softens, the tension leaves your body. You regain your power.
So we've got the theory, we've got the physics, the chores, the money, and the enemies. Now I want to get tactical, because Dung actually gives us a how-to guide. He calls it the 3 questions.
This is the toolkit. He suggests that before we act, especially when we're stressed or annoyed, we pause for just a split second and ask a specific question to trigger that love response.
Okay, let's run through them. The first one is for when you have to do a task you hate. My expense report scenario.
Question 1 is, who does this help?
Simple.
Simple but powerful. Does it help my family, my colleagues, my future self? Suddenly, you aren't a victim of the task. You are a provider of help.
I like that, my future self. Who does this 6 a.m. workout help? It helps future me not feel like garbage. It connects the pain to a purpose.
Exactly.
Okay, second scenario. Before getting angry at someone.
Question 2. If they are suffering, can I understand them better?
That is a total pattern interrupt, because usually my question is, why are they such an idiot?
Right. Which leads to anger. But asking if they are suffering forces you to engage your empathy center rather than your judgment center. It shifts you from judge to observer. And usually the answer is yes, they are suffering in some way.
And the third one, before refusing to help someone.
Question 3. If I were them, what would I hope others would do?
The golden rule, remixed.
It cuts through all the excuses, it puts you directly in their shoes, and Dung emphasizes you don't need to do these grand gestures. You don't need to carry someone up 4 flights of stairs every day.
Right. He talks about micro actions.
Yes. Just do one small thing with love. Speak one sentence a little kinder than you normally would. Look at someone with understanding instead of just a blank stare.
It seems so small, but his whole argument is that these small things accumulate. They change your internal state.
And that's the magical power. It changes you first. The world might change later, but your experience of the world changes immediately. You feel lighter, stronger, and more peaceful.
It really is a compelling argument. It moves love from the emotions column to the survival skills column. It's an efficiency hack for the human soul.
I think that's the key takeaway. In a world that's obsessed with productivity hacks and biohacking and optimization, Dung is offering the ultimate hack, the energy source that doesn't run out because it generates itself.
It reminds me of that quote he includes from Mother Teresa.
Not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love.
It turns out that's not just a nice thing to stitch on a pillow. It's a strategy for endurance.
It is. It's a strategy for keeping your heart wide enough to embrace life, rather than shrinking away from it in exhaustion.
So here's our challenge to you, the listener. We want you to try the perspective shift on just one thing today. Just one. Pick that one email you've been avoiding or that one chore you hate doing.
Ask yourself, who does this help? Turn it from an obligation into an act of care. And then just pay attention to your body. Pay attention to your energy levels. See if it feels different.
Does it feel like dragging a weight, or does it feel like lifting it? That's the test.
Indeed.
We're going to leave you with one final thought to chew on, something that really stuck with us from Zung's piece. We talked about the physics of him carrying his daughter.
If love can physically lift a person 20 kilograms heavier than you up 4 flights of stairs.
What heavy psychological burdens are you carrying right now simply because you're trying to lift them with logic instead of love?
Something to think about.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.
Take care.